All right, Jesse on Fire, welcome back to the channel. So I do this channel to entertain people because I love the UFC, but sometimes there are important points that need to be made that I'm going to share. Not that I'm going to share, actually I have nothing to do with this. It's just that I recognize this thing and I'm going to share it with you because bottom line, this Alexander and Volkanovski versus Max Holloway fight is special. This is something different. Not the kind of thing that you get to watch day in and day out as a UFC fan. This is maybe once in a lifetime, honestly. As the more I thought about it, the more I've wrapped my brain around the fact that like I can't think of another example that would fall into this category, because what you're looking at is you're looking at a GOAT fight. You're actually looking at a GOAT fight, and not like a this guy kind of towards the end of his prime and this guy's still right. Center of their prime, the two greatest featherweights of all time are going to fight against each other. And I realize that if you just kind of are a superficial fan and you're like kind of casual and you don't really think a lot and you just looked at the two, the record against it, well, Volkanovski's already beat Holloway twice. Did he? Did he? Okay, I agree. Like when history is told, yeah, he beat him twice. Okay, he beat him twice. But we're going to get into those fights and we're going to get into this entire thing because bottom line is, if I can do a good job communicating what this fight actually is, you're going to have goosebumps from this moment until you actually see the fight and throughout the entire fight. Now, if you like the content, subscribe and ring the bell. We're almost to 65,000. The entire reason I started this channel, the whole entire reason, is because I did exactly what I'm about to do here to so many people, and afterwards turn them into fans, like turn them into UFC fans. Not because I'm special, just because I love the fucking sports. I love the sports so much that it's bleeding out of my eyes, dude. Like it's like falling out of my ears. Like if I start talking about UFC, how much I love the sport is like, I'm not putting on a performance when I talk about UFC. I sound exactly the same when I talk to people in regular life, and people just kept saying to me, they're all, dude, you should start a YouTube channel, man. Like you should really start a YouTube channel. Like you created a fan out of me. I watch the sport now every time it's on because I watched UFC whatever at your house with you, and you made it so exciting that like now I got hooked. And I really don't think that there's a narrative that I could that if I communicate better is more impactful, like as it relates to this, just the grand scheme of mixed martial arts, than this right here. But anyway, yeah, so jump on board, subscribe if you want. So this is a GOAT fight, and what I mean again, like I'm curious if anyone can name an example of a single time that you had the two greatest fighters of all time in a specific weight class who fought against each other in their prime, right? Like they've fought against each other twice. Got it. Understand. Volkanovski won twice. Yeah. Sure. But I want to put that in perspective real quick like this, okay? So just to actually really put into perspective these two guys' career and where they're at right now, okay? This right here is the sitting champion, okay? This is Volkanovski. This is all of his UFC fights, okay? All of them. Now, he obviously has won a lot more than these. He came into the UFC with a super long win streak. But since coming to the UFC, he's won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 straight fights, okay? 11 straight fights. Do you know how hard that is in the UFC? Obviously, you guys do, okay? Only the greatest fighters pull that off, okay? He won the championship when he beat Max Holloway. And that was, what year is that? So that was 2019. He beat Jose Aldo before he fought him. Okay, so he beat Jose Aldo, the previous greatest of all time. Then he went up and he got his title shot against Holloway. He won December 2019. He beat Holloway twice. Then he beat Ortega, and then he knocked out Korean Zombie. That's a legit run at the featherweight division. Max Holloway, okay? You go to Max Holloway's side, right? Go to Max. The main reason why you can make an argument for Volkanovski being the greatest of all time is because he won all of those fights and he beat Max Holloway twice. But we're going to get into those, like I said. You go over to the Max Holloway side. Look at this run, dude. Look at this run starting in 2014. Okay, like let's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 straight fights going into 2017, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, now you see this Dustin Poirier fight right here? That's a loss. That ain't a featherweight, dude. That's when he went up and fought him at lightweight, and he almost beat him, dude. He almost beat him. That was one of the greatest fights of all time. If you've never watched Dustin Poirier versus Max Holloway, get on it, dude. Okay, then he goes back to featherweight, dominates again, beats Frankie Edgar. Then he has the two Alexander Volkanovski fights, which again, I'm going to get to. These are not losses, okay? Like the Volkanovski fights against Holloway are not victories. The Volkanovski fights for Max are not losses, not really. I mean, technically they are, but not really, okay? And then he beats the living shit out of Calvin Kattar, fucking annihilates him for 5 straight rounds. It was like, I don't know if you guys have been watching me long enough, but when he was fighting Calvin Kattar, I did a long prediction video where everyone was picking Calvin Kattar. I was like, you guys, I think you guys are falling into that trap that people do where like, oh, what's the last thing I saw this guy do? Oh, he lost. So yeah, he's probably going to lose. I was like, first of all, he arguably won that fight he's fighting against Volkanovski, okay? And he ran through Calvin Kattar exactly like I said he was going to, and then he beat Yair Rodriguez, and again, one of the most unbelievable fights ever. Now, obviously, there is this kind of overhanging thing where people think like, well, at a certain point, Max is gonna, like his chin's gonna go. Okay, well, there's no indicator that that's now, right? So as far as I'm concerned, he's still in his prime because no one has proven otherwise, okay? Because when you actually reframe the Alexander Volkanovski fights and you really think about it, okay, like I understand, same thing as like, what did the guy do in his last fight? Oh, he lost? Okay, he's probably going to lose. Same thing. It's like simple-minded thinking. It's like, and so let's just take off the fact that when you look, it says loss, and then remember those fights. Okay, the first Volkanovski fight. The reason they did an immediate rematch, aside from the fact that Max is marketable and was a very dominant champion, is because at the end of that fight, there was no one who was confident who was going to get picked. That's the thing about this dude. Like I said the exact same thing about the main event last week or on Saturday, where I was like, okay, yeah, he's really disappointed, but all that happened was like some judges decided where, at least half the world thinks that you won. And now it's just a subjective thing. There's no one tapped out. No one got knocked out. No one had to get saved by the ref. Okay. Some guys subjectively decided that you won, and a bunch of people who are very here's the thing, dude. Like, if half the MMA fan base disagrees with a decision, that matters, dude. And that matters when you are talking about this, where you're talking about a legacy fight. That shit fucking matters. Because it's not like if I say, look, I thought that guy won, man. And I'm not just talking about me personally, but the Valentina one, where everyone's like, oh, Valentina, I don't think Valentina won. And I was like, I don't know, dude. You guys are talking about the second round. Here's how I saw it. The Weasel goes and does the breakdown, and it's like, oh, Jesse was right about that. I mean, I'm not always right. I was wrong about one of the rounds in this most recent one, but all of us collectively, anybody watching this video, anybody who's if you're watching this video, you're a hardcore fan, which means you have a trained eye, which means that if half of us think that one guy won and half of us think the other guy won, it means neither of them fucking won. Not really. Okay? You knock a dude out, win. You submit a guy, win. You completely dominate him post to post, or at least dominate it to where everyone knows who's going to win the decision, win. If there's a question and a big dominant group thinks the other guy won, you didn't fucking win, dude. I mean, you won, but you didn't win, right? Not really, because the collective opinions were split. So the first fight with Volkanovski basically came down to, was like, all right, well, how much do you value leg kicks? Because Volkanovski landed 1 million leg kicks, right? Holloway outlanded him in punches and all that, and it was just kind of like, I don't know. And when he was walking out, everyone was kind of like, I guess, I guess. There was nothing definitive about that win. Nothing. And here's another one that I got right. And I'm just going to, because why not? I'm going to talk about this anyway. I'm going to point out that I got this right again on this one. So in between the first and second fight for Volkanovski and Holloway, I was like, you guys, Holloway is one of these guys that does the same. Well, now I could say, I didn't use this as an example back then, but does the same thing as Jan. Okay. Jan and Holloway are guys that are so fucking good that they know they can hang with you going 60%, right? They can keep it basically even going 60%. Okay. Holloway and Jan, the way that they fight against almost everyone is they are trying to keep it relatively even or beat you by a little bit. Well, they'll beat you whatever they beat you by, using 60 to 70% of their effort in the first 2 rounds. Okay. They want to steal the round, whatever. They want to win the round, But the goal is to have the other guy going as hard as he possibly can while they conserve energy. And in the third, now they go full throttle and they fucking beat the living shit out of people. Fucking beat the piss out of them. You think it's a fucking coincidence that Jan always knocks people out in the third, fourth, fifth round? Like this is how they fight. And Holloway does the same thing with everyone, okay? Now, he did that against Volkanovski, and in the Volkanovski fight, Volkanovski was not even moderately tired in the fifth, had not slowed down even a little bit in the first round, or in the fifth round. And so I said before their second fight, I was like, watch, this is going to be very uncharacteristic of Holloway, but he's going to come out firing in the first 2 rounds because he knows his game plan doesn't work against against Volkanovski. He's going to come out heavy in the first 2 rounds. And Holloway beat the living shit out of Volkanovski in the first 2 rounds of their second fight. Knocked him down, really fucked him up. I mean, those were definitive rounds for Holloway, round 1 and 2 in the second fight. And then Max got tired. And so, I mean, listen, I agreed with that decision per the point system and the judging system that exists in the UFC right now, because Volkanovski, I thought, won the third, fourth, fifth. But in terms of who definitively won rounds, like where there were a couple rounds that were absolutely no fucking question who won them. Max is the guy, and he won the first 2 rounds definitively, right? And then, Volkanovski kind of outpointed him in 3 straight rounds to get the decision. So again, you have another decision that goes in the direction of Volkanovski. It's a split decision, number 1, but it's like, did he really win? Like he didn't cause any serious damage on Max at all. Like none. Like didn't knock him down, didn't hurt him, nothing. Max hurt Volkanovski, but he hurt him in the early rounds, and Volkanovski composed himself and then beat him in the later rounds. Okay, that's like the definition of a fucking draw. Like in real life, like, if you're not like doing some kind of thing where you're writing down who you think won or whatever, where you're just a person objectively watching and going, who won that fight? Forget the fucking point system. Like man to man, who fucking won that fight? They're in both fights. Those are dead fucking even. Dead even in any way that you would measure it outside of some technical little like, well, who won this round? I guess he edged him out here, even though he made more damage, blah, blah, blah. And I realize people are probably going to talk shit about this in the comments, but what I'm talking about the greatness topic. I'm talking about the greatest of all time. Okay. And so if you're talking about that particular topic, then yeah, it fucking matters. This shit fucking matters because they fought already twice in their prime to a total fucking stalemate. Okay? As far as I'm concerned, these 2 guys, without any shred of doubt, it's not even fucking arguable. These are the 2 greatest featherweights of all time who have already fought twice in their prime to a stone fucking stalemate. A fucking stalemate. And they're going to fight again on Saturday. The third fight among the 2 greatest featherweights of all time, both in their prime. First of all, give me an example of when you've ever seen 2 guys who are the 2 greatest of all time in their division fight against each other in their fucking prime. Once. Even one example. Give me, I'm serious. Think of one, okay? Maybe you have John Jones and Daniel Cormier, right? Except that John Jones definitively beat Daniel Cormier twice. So it's not that conversation. That conversation is not there, right? It might have been there, but he decided it. He fucking beat him twice. Like, end of story. John is a better light heavyweight than Daniel Cormier, period. There's no argument there. At heavyweight, you're like, all right, well, I don't know. You got Cain Velasquez, Fedor Emelianenko. You got like heavyweight is a tough for the GOAT conversation, and they never fought against each other. Okay. You go down to middleweight. Who do you got? Right. You got Anderson Silva. Maybe you got Izzy, and let's just say like, okay, well, they did fight against each other, but obviously that's not prime Anderson. Okay. That's not prime Anderson. So there's no one at middleweight. There's no GOAT conversation between 2 guys who have fought at fucking middleweight. You go to welterweight. This is easy. You got Kamaru Usman, you got George St. Pierre. They never fought, period. There's no conversation about anybody else. You go to lightweight, you got Khabib, period, right? Khabib's the greatest lightweight of all time, okay? Now, he did not beat Charles Oliveira. You might get to see this in the future, maybe at lightweight, but you've never seen it thus far, okay? Featherweight, what are we talking about, okay? It's a once in a fucking lifetime fight. Okay, it's a once in a lifetime fight. You go down to bantamweight; it hasn't even been around long enough to even have that conversation. 125, it's fucking you have Triple C beat Demetrius, but Triple C wasn't in the conversation for greatest of all time at the time, so it's never happened. Okay, Now, you could argue that Amanda Nunes and Valentina Shevchenko are the other example. But guess what? You want to know what happened when they fought the 2 times? Fucking stalemate both times. That's the only other example that you could give would be Valentina and Amanda, because Amanda is obviously the best, like female. Like you got, honestly, pull the weight class out of it. Best 2 female fighters of all time. That's your only other example. Stalemate both times. Amanda won the first 2 rounds against Valentina in the first fight, and then she ran out of gas, and Valentina was fucking beating the shit out of her in the 3rd round. That fight goes 4 or 5 rounds. Absolutely no question Valentina wins, but Amanda won the decision because she won the first 2 rounds. You go and you watch the second fight, it's a fucking stalemate. No one had any idea who won that fight. A stone fucking stalemate. And so what you got on Saturday is a once in a fucking lifetime on the male side fight. Once in a lifetime. And now that you've listened to me lay this all out, I challenge you to tell me that I'm wrong about that. Explain to me where there's been a fight like this ever. Let's fucking go, son. Goat fight. Let's go. I honestly think Max might do it, dude. I really do. I think he might do it. And if he does, you got to do it again. Let's go. No one won those first two fights. Not really. Anyway, that is what I've got. Subscribe to the channel, ring the bell. Peace.